What is up, Fantasy Endgame community? I'm Pierre, and it's time to mock. That's right, we've already gone over our mock first round for early 2022 fantasy drafts, but let's get to the NFL draft now. I'm going to give you my first version 1.0 of the NFL draft in April. That's right, we're going to go over who should be taken where and who I think might land. For fantasy football purposes, it's going to matter to see which players get taken in this year's rookie draft. So I'm going to go bit by bit here. Let's start with the first quarter of the draft. And if you look at the big board here, this is my first iteration of the mock draft. Well, not a lot of excitement for fantasy purposes. You don't see a single skill player, nobody you can use in a fantasy league unless you're playing with IDP, which is a great way to play fantasy football, by the way. All right, but let's go through here and let me explain to you why there's not going to be a quarterback taken in the first 8 picks. So a lot of these teams just either don't need a quarterback or they're not ready to move on, even though they should. So Jacksonville obviously got their guy last year in Trevor Lawrence. Detroit, I mean, maybe Jared Goff is not the answer, but this is a team that I don't think is ready to invest in a quarterback, and I don't think they're going to pass up on an elite pass rusher. The thing is, there's just not a quarterback that stands out like there was last year with the Trevor Lawrence. As bad as he looked as a rookie, look, coming out of college, he was the slam dunk #1 pick. We don't even know for sure who the first quarterback off the board is going to be. So I don't see Detroit going there. Same thing with Houston. Look, Davis Mills actually showed a little something toward the end of last season. They still have to figure out what to do with Deshaun Watson and who they might get back in exchange. Maybe a quarterback. But again, pass rushers are at the top of this class, not quarterbacks. Jets, they got their guy last year with Zach Wilson. Giants, you know what? Maybe should try something else out, but this is a team that has already said they're going to stick with Daniel Jones at least for one more year. The Panthers, yeah, they could definitely use a quarterback, but remember, this is an owner that is desperate to win now and a coach that's fighting to keep his job. They're not ready to roll with a rookie, so I do think they're going to make a move elsewhere through free agency or a trade. And then Atlanta has already said they're sticking with Matt Ryan for one more year. So these are a lot of teams that could go quarterback next year, but right now I have them looking for help in the offensive line or the defensive line primarily. Kyle Hamilton is kind of like that unicorn in the secondary. You don't see a safety go that high very often, but you know, Robert Saleh, he wants to solidify that defense because that's kind of his thing. All right, now let's take a look at the next portion, and lo and behold, there's a quarterback. I got Denver going with Sam Howell out of North Carolina. Arguable whether he deserves to go that high, but look, this is a guy who before this season was thought of as potential #1 overall pick. Kind of had some disappointing moments. Of course, that happens when you lose a lot of your skill players to the NFL, both those running backs, of course, and receivers like De'Ami Brown. So Howell did struggle a little bit, but he still has the arm talent. He still has that mobility, that dual threat ability. And so I do think Denver still looking to groom their next great quarterback, as they have been for a long time. This is a team that, you know what, if they don't pull the trigger on an Aaron Rodgers move, which I don't really see happening, yeah, it's possible, but if nothing comes to fruition there, you could see them taking a young quarterback like Sam Howell. So that's who I have #9. And I look at #10, you're thinking, wait a minute, that's not where the Steelers pick. So we have our first trade of the NFL draft. I do think that the Steelers know they need a quarterback that is going to be their next franchise guy. Had Ben Roethlisberger so much, this is a team could be close to contention because, well, hey, they somehow made the playoffs this year. But local guy in Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, he is arguably the best quarterback in this draft. Him and Howell, you know, could be interchangeable, but it just only makes sense that the Steelers make a move to get their guy because there's really just not a lot out there, you know, that they can do as far as acquiring through free agency or trade. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to do that. I think they're going to get their guy so that Tomlin can try to groom his next franchise guy. So I got Kenny Pickett going to Pittsburgh at #10. And Washington, by the way, why #10? Because you see the first quarterback off the board there, and I do think they want to jump ahead of Washington because Washington kind of could use a quarterback too, but they don't get either of those two guys, so Washington does need help at wide receiver, so they'll take Drake London. Now, that's an interesting pick. We got our first wide receiver here. London, very long athletic, of course, USC, guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, you know, a history of good wide receivers coming out of that school. You know what? Jameson Williams could be the guy there, but coming off that ACL injury, it's just unlikely he'll be the first wide receiver taken for a team that feels like it's at least close to playoff contention. So I have London going there. And then we see another wide receiver at number 13. I got Garrett Wilson of Ohio State. Of course, Ohio boy, that makes sense. But look, Wilson is a natural fit there. We know Odell Beckham is gone. Jarvis Landry is fine, but they need more weapons. You know, they have a couple guys who are deep threats, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz, but they need another go-to receiver. There's a lot of names you could put there. I think it's going to be Wilson. Of course, we'll see a lot how things shake out after Pro Day and combines, things like that. And then we see Eagles back-to-back picks. Some people think they might go receiver. I think it's too early for that. They just took Devontae Smith last year. They do need to solidify their secondary for sure and offensive line. So that's why I have them going there. All right, we're halfway through the first round. Let's get going with the Chargers. They're going to need some help on that defensive line, that run defense, bottom 5 in the league. So they're going to go with Jordan Davis. And then here's something that will definitely shake things up. I think it's pretty clear the Saints need a quarterback. Taysom Hill coming off that Liz Frank injury. Is he really the answer anyways? Look, he was Sean Payton's guy. Sean Payton is gone. He's now retired. Jameis Winston was a free agent, also coming off injury. They don't have a quarterback, and with the coach retiring, this is a team that is in salary cap hell. They cannot go out and sign somebody. They're not going to trade for somebody. They basically need to start over, and who better than Malik Willis out of Liberty, possibly the most gifted physical quarterback in this draft, but also coming out of Liberty, you got to question whether he's pro ready right away. Might be a work in progress. A guy who's shown some inconsistency on tape. Look, he's got all the tools, but might take time to develop, kind of like a Josh Allen. So we'll see what happens, but this is the perfect pick right here, available kind of towards the second half of the first round. So I got Willis going to the Saints. That would be interesting. All right, and then the Bills, everyone wants to stick a running back to them. They're not going to go there. They are going to even further solidify that defense. Jets make another boring pick with an offensive lineman. New England's not going to take a receiver, right? They're going to go defense. And then likewise with the Raiders and the Cardinals. So let's go on to the next part. All right, so here we go, the last few picks of the first round. And there's Williams. The Titans absolutely need help on offense. We saw Ryan Tannehill struggling in the playoffs. Look, Derrick Henry was out there. They can't put everything on him. Julio Jones, he's just not what he used to be, right? We'll have to admit that even when healthy, he just isn't his former self. So getting a guy like him, this is a team that doesn't have to have someone who comes in right away on day one to make an impact. They can take a chance on a guy who's probably the most talented receiver. Even if he's not ready by week 1, that's okay. They can get by and then have a potential future receiving core there with A.J. Brown and Williams. That would be pretty special. So I got him going just ahead of Treylon Burks. Now, what about the Bucs here? If Tom Brady isn't coming back, look, they're going to need some help on offense, believe it or not. Starting over at quarterback, Godwin with an ACL injury, Antonio Brown gone forever, at least from Tampa Bay. Yeah, they're going to need some juice on offense. So Burks makes sense here because, again, they're going to need to groom a guy to be that next target for whoever the quarterback is. So I like him there. Is Green Bay going to take a wide receiver after Aaron Rodgers leaves? Who knows? Look, is Aaron Rodgers going to stay in Green Bay? Look, even if he does stay in Green Bay and Devontae Adams stays in Green Bay, we can still make the same argument we've been making for years. They need more help at wide receiver. MVS, he's good as a deep threat, but he's not a clear number 2 guy, and neither is Allen Lazard. So Chris Olave of Ohio State makes all the sense in the world. If Devontae Adams does leave and Aaron Rodgers goes too, they're definitely going to need help at wide receiver. So got him taking a receiver there either way. And then it makes sense that the Bengals solidify that offensive line. Dolphins getting an edge rusher here. And then the Lions going to receiver again. Yes, Jahan Dotson of Penn State, a guy who could go a little bit sooner. Some people have him mocked to Tennessee, but I think he goes here. And that makes sense because if you think about it, the Lions, they got St. Brown, but again, he's a slot guy. He's not necessarily going to be a feature target. I know he got a ton of targets down the stretch here, but that's because TJ Hawkinson wasn't playing and they had nobody else to throw to. They need another weapon. And a lot of those other kind of fringy guys like to have like Khalif Raymond, they're all free agents. So Detroit really does need help at wide receiver, so Dotson makes sense here. And of course, the Chiefs are going to go defense because they don't really need the help on offense. All right, there you have it. The very first mock NFL draft for the Fantasy Endgame here, 2022. We'll update this as things change. You know that this draft board is going to be all over the place before the actual NFL draft takes place. Stay with us. We're going to try to give you the best information all off season long. You Dynasty owners, I know you want to stay on top of things. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't hit subscribe already, do it now. We appreciate it. All right, thanks a lot.